Okay, cool. So welcome everyone. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit today about my journey. We'll then talk a bit about mindset. We'll talk a little bit about house hacking. We'll dive into a couple actual examples. I'll give you all some resources, and then we'll leave some room for Q&A. There's quite a bit of slides, but I'll try to get through them as quick as I can so that we have at least 10, 15 minutes or so for questions at the end. Okay, where did it all start for me? So anyone know where this is? Drop it in the chat if you know or make a guess. Germany, exactly. That's right. Yep. So this is Berlin, Germany. This is where I grew up, where I was born. I moved to the US when I was 16 years old as an exchange student. So I was an exchange student back in 2005. And when I was thinking about America, this is what I thought about. So I pictured warms, palm trees. I pictured New York, Times Square, or I pictured Hollywood. Like that's about the extent of my view, my vision of the US. And I was really excited. I had to write like a 6-pager for this organization up here, AFS. They were all volunteers because I was trying to look for the least expensive one. My family didn't have a ton of money to just send me to another country. So um, them being volunteers as well as the families was the least expensive option. But I wrote this long pager, 6-pager, to explain that I love the beach, that I love the sun, and I love surfing and things like that. And so then they put me in the most logical place, which was Buffalo. So I ended up in the snowiest place on earth, especially in January if you followed it. Buffalo, New York is where I initially came as a 16-year-old student, and it was crazy. I mean, I had never seen that much snow in my life. This is not an actual picture, but next time I will dig through some actual pictures of myself. But this is how it looks quite a lot there. Um, Great city, great people. I love it. I love it to this day. I had a family there that I met that basically adopted me. And so I love the people there. I could definitely do with a little bit of less snow. So that was kind of my journey there. I went to high school. In a small town. I then went to community college again, just trying to kind of save money. The college in the US super expensive, but going there for not nearly as much as it is today helped me. And then going to transferring for a 4-year school in Buffalo after that. And as I was there, I was just always kind of trying to think SUNY Buffalo, yeah. um, I was trying to think, how do you make money in America? And for anyone that is maybe on this call that is an immigrant or was an international student, you're actually pretty restricted when you come to the US. You're restricted to 20 hours a week on campus, which is not a lot of time you have. And I didn't have the cash reserves that a lot of other international students had. So I just kind of had to figure things out. And these were my 3 ways when I was younger. So, dishwashing in a small town. That's not an actual picture of me, but it was the exact same machine. Everything was the exact same. I worked on a farm. That is the actual farm I worked on. And then next to it, I worked at a hotel doing overnights and doing afternoon shifts. So that was pretty harsh, but that is also the actual hotel that I was at. And it kind of gives you, I think, a good mindset, a good attitude about what's kind of possible. And once you get a good job like Amazon, you're more appreciative of that when you have this kind of background initially. So I recently, as I was thinking about where I was, I've been like kind of journaling for like 12 plus years, and I found this little like journal note that I had, which was like my dad from Germany was going to visit me. Clearly, I wasn't too happy about cleaning, but one of the biggest things here was, my girlfriend and I at the time we didn't have a lot of money, so we had $100 in one of the M&T accounts. So anyone that was on the East Coast, they might know M&T bank, and then 300 in a German bank account. So I had about $400. Um, not a lot of money at that stage, and was struggling. And I was worried because I didn't know if I'm going to be able to stay in the country or not. Um, Again, you're kind of tied to visa restrictions when you are an international student. So, long story short, I kind of worked my way. I got married initially, got a residency. Um, I'm not married anymore, but nevertheless, I did uh, get the residency early on, and then that really kind of helped me to be able to work in the US. And so I applied for Amazon back over 10 years ago now. Um, and that's why I started. So I started as an L3, and the reason I bring this up too is because you don't some of you may have started really, really high in Amazon. You have great cash flow. Some of you might not, right? Some of them start in fulfillment centers. You start wherever. And so I really think kind of for real estate, and especially this kind of house hacking, it should be something that everyone should think about. Um, and I want to kind of get rid of the idea that real estate is just for people that have a ton of money. Like, it might take definitely more time. It does take some money, but you can kind of start really anywhere and go from there. So for me, it started as an L3 associate in TRMS. Today, as far as Amazon, I work for Amazon Music, program manager here, run an operations team for the music catalog. And as far as real estate, so really I was kind of subscribing to the Dave Ramsey lifestyle until 25. If you know Dave Ramsey, he's really anti-debt, no debt at all. He thinks, he says real estate is kind of the one that's okay, but he would definitely not encourage you to borrow too much money to invest in real estate. So that was me for a long time. So I didn't really think about buying any property. But I did take the plunge in 2017 here in Kent, Washington, to buy my first condo. Sold that one 4 years later for about $100,000 profit. Bought my first investment property a year later, 2018 in Buffalo. Just recently sold that one, only for 25K. But if you look kind of at the numbers, $400 a month it was paying me. Again, I think I want to emphasize the point. You don't have to make necessarily hundreds of thousands to invest, and you also don't need to have every property make you hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's like you have to kind of think about, this property was paying me all through those 5 years, made some profit for not doing anything. Same with the second property that I invested in, which was a fourplex. That was bringing in $600 a month, every month. That's after everything, every expenses, mortgage, everything. And then it netted about 40K in profit. So think about that as you think about like your real estate journey. I think sometimes we can get caught up about, we need to make all these high numbers in order to have a good deal, but these worked out great for me, but nobody had told me about house hacking. So I get the question a lot around where to invest, what state to invest. We're going to talk about house hacking today, which is more like in your own local backyard. So I just continued from there. I was kind of ready to house hack my first deal in 2020. That one I had under contract for 430. It fell through because of one wrong routing number in my in the routing, one wrong digit in my routing number that I'd submitted to the lender, which for this property over here. And it was all kind of on autopilot. Ended up having late payments on there, which then disqualified me on the loan. That property today is about 650K, probably in this market even more. You're probably looking at about 700K. So think about that, right? Like that's only 3 years ago. And again, Seattle had one of the highest appreciating markets in the country. But that's equity right there in real estate. That's you're not really doing anything for it, right? It's just for you owning that property. Finally, I got my first house hack in Tukwila, Washington in May 2021. I also acquired my real estate license that same month and joined a house hack team here in Seattle. And I got my second house hack last year in Ballard, and then currently looking for the third house hack locally. So as far as the properties now, used to own 6, sold 2, own 4. Used to be 18 doors, now 12 across Washington, New York, and Germany. I have a condo there. For anyone that's been there, this is in Rostock. If you ever need a place to stay, it's there. It really is for friends and family, and my brother certainly doesn't use it barely at all. So let me know if you ever try to go to the Baltic Sea. Um, you're welcome to stay there. Um, I've broken around 6 million in real estate, helping people out as an agent. And like I said, one of the founding members of the Real Estate Act Group, together with Justin, who's going to be here in a couple of weeks, as well as a guy named Abhishek. The three of us just started sitting in a cafeteria talking about real estate back in 2019. The team I'm on, they own over 50 properties, brokered over 100 million in real estate and over 70 transactions. So a ton of knowledge across investing, house hacking, and real estate in general. This is kind of the team. We do team outings. There's my dog, little pug, bring her to Amazon as much as I can. And before we jump into the actual house hacking, one thing I want to just quickly touch on here is just kind of a mindset thing. So I'm pretty big on mindset because I believe information is out there, right? There's all the information you need is really out there. So it's not a problem of not having the information on what to do. It's a problem of actually taking action with that information. And you can listen to the presentation today, you can look at the channel, you can reach out to people, but it's without that actually taken action and consistent action, it's tough to actually get something under contract to actually start investing. So really, when you think about next steps, taking that information, but then actually have kind of a plan of what is like your next step. I don't know how many of you all know Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets, but he talks a lot about MIN, which is like your most important next step, right? That could be just like a Facebook post. That could be just like after this presentation, you reach out to me, we talk about, coffee chat or whatever. Just what's like your next step. Be different than anyone else. Once you start house hacking or you start investing, you're usually different at parties. Like when I talk about like, yeah, I own like, a few properties or a house hack, and they're like, what? People will look at you like, it's a little crazy, which is good. I think, being different, as long as it's in the right direction, is good. Yeah, embrace change, get out of your comfort zone, be around people that inspire you. And I think I'm a big believer in writing things down. And to the right is my polar plunge group. So every morning we go jump in the water. A little bit more around here. I really think it's important when you think about real estate investing and where you want to go, just think through what are your criterias, right? As you can see, I don't have 300 properties. I don't know if I really want 300 properties, but there's definitely people that do and that have them. They do well, but you don't necessarily have to have that. So just kind of find what your goal is, right? If your goal is 1,000 properties or 500 properties by, I don't know, age 40 or age 35, I don't know, if you're 20 years old, you get 15 years. Definitely fine, but it's just understanding your why and kind of why you want to do this is very important. Use this acronym SCALE here, which is really setting your criteria. So again, I get messages a lot of like, where do you think I should invest? And it's very dependent, right? If you want to go out of state, you can do that. If you want to stay in state, think about what's the condition, like how much time do I have to fix things up? Am I good managing contractors, right? What do I really want to look for? Profitability, like cash flow, development, blended. And you can talk to people like me, talk to people in the industry, you can kind of help you figure that out. But at the end of the day, the point here being, don't be so, you can get kind of lost in everything, but there's ways to make money in real estate in pretty much anything. But you just need to, it's important to really focus on something, especially when you're starting out. More things here. I'm big on accountability. So I'm part of like some different masterminds that where we track how many deals we analyze. We track different habits and just keep each other accountable, not just real estate, but also just life related. So always a big believer in that. All right. So when we talk about house hacking, what is actually house hacking? So house hacking is the decision to rent out a portion of your property in order to offset the costs of home ownership, like your mortgage, taxes, insurance, etc. I really like this graphic. It gives you a few different ways to think about how could you hack your house, right? Now they talk a lot about life hacking, right? Similar thing, like it's just in this particular instance, how can you use your home to potentially generate income? So a couple ideas here: rent out the extra bedrooms, rent out an in-law, mother-in-law suite, buy a multifamily home. That's like the most straightforward house hack, right? You're buying a 2 to 4 unit usually, so duplex, triplex, a quadplex. You live in one unit, and then you rent out the other units. That is like very straightforward in a market like Seattle. Very expensive. It's very expensive to find these or to buy these properties, but once again, I think it's always individually dependent, right? For some people, 1.5 million is very, very expensive. For some people, that's normal, right? For others, 300,000. When I first moved to Seattle, I thought, oh my gosh, a house that's 400,000 is so expensive, because I was used to Buffalo where it's 100,000, right? So always depends. You can rent out garage space and you can rent out your yard, and I'll show you a couple of things that I've done in that exact instance. What are some of the benefits of house hacking? So the reason I really love house hacking is for some of these. So the ability to invest in real estate with low money. So you can do 0%. If you're a veteran, VA loans, you can do 0% down. I have someone on my team. That's what he's done. He's 24 years old, and he's got a couple homes, and he started doing the VA 0% down. You can do 3.5%, 5%, FHA or conventional, versus if you're just buying a straight up investment property, you need at least 20, 25% down. In a market like Seattle, if your average home is around 650, 700,000 here, that's a lot of money, right? That you need to invest. Now, it's not impossible, but if you can house hack, you can get in there with a lot less money down. Lower interest rates than traditional investments. So about 0.5% to a percentage. So if you were to look at, right now the Fed, as you all know, it kind of keeps raising it a little bit. So if our rate is around 7.5%, owner occupied, you'd be looking at potentially over 8% as an investment. So the kind of owner occupancy conventional loan gives you a low interest rate. Your expenses are paid for by tenants, right? So yes, they are going to create some expenses, higher utilities and things, but they are going to pay at least a portion of your expenses. You can potentially pay less for owning a home than renting. So I'll jump into like mine in a little bit, but like I pay probably around $1,400. Depends on how well the Airbnb does. It can be anywhere from like $1,000 to, let's say, $1,800 a month, which where I live in Ballard is still less than if I was to rent the same place. Like if I wanted to rent the townhome that I have, I'd be paying well over $3,000. Cash flow and build equity. So cash flow, we'll talk about it in a minute, but basically after all your mortgage, your insurance, your taxes, your operating expenses, after all that is accounted for, you take your rental income from that, and whatever is left over at the end of the month, that's your cash flow. So ideally, you can have some cash flow. A lot tougher right now with the high interest rates, but you'll build equity. Like no matter what, you'll have people paying down your loan. I think it's a very underestimated part of investing, because we've gotten so focused on cash flowing and making sure that you get some sort of money every month from your property that we forget about these other benefits of real estate. And I talked about this about a month ago when I did like a real estate 101 session. But one big one is loan pay down. So you have other people paying down your loan every month, every year, right? So not just focusing on the cash flow, that's not always going to be there necessarily, but focusing on some of the other benefits of real estate, I think is really important, especially in this market. Another cool thing is you can repeat it after 1 year. So the mortgage regulations are that for a conventional owner-occupied property, you need to stay in it at least 12 months. But after 12 months, you can leave and you can do it again. Now, you don't have to, but you can pretty much build up a rental portfolio pretty fast. I mean, if you think about, let's take a 10-year horizon, you do it every 2 years, you'll have 5 properties within 10 years. What are some of the drawbacks of house hacking? So here's a couple that I've seen, that I've experienced, and that will probably, are things to definitely consider. One is sharing your space with others. And this goes back again of you can figure out a property, like we're talking about the duplex or triplex, right? You're not really sharing your space there necessarily, right? You have walls that are separating you. It may be, and we'll talk about this as well, it may be not as profitable as if you, say, do the room rental, where you're going to share space with people, but you're able to charge more as a like more at scale, versus if you're just in a duplex and you're doing one side and the other side. But if that's like really, really important to you, it's still better like to do that than to just say, you know what, I'm just going to keep renting, or I'm not going to buy property. So I think sharing the space with others can be a drawback, but it can be avoided depending on what type of property you're going to get. The next one is landlord responsibilities. So I'm personally not great at fixing things. I've my brother in Germany is a carpenter. I feel like he's got all the skills, and when we were born, he got all the kind of handyman skills. So I had to figure out a different way. But nevertheless, it does come with that. I mean, I've been in my houses, I've been painting, I've been putting up, shelves. I've had to fix the garbage disposal. So it does come with some of that, potentially, but you can also outsource that. Like eventually I found people like handymen that I would call and I would have them do that. Of course, managing tenants if for rent payments, right? Making sure you get the right tenants in there. It can be a hassle for some, but it's honestly, again, really dependent on how much do you want to put in. Because when I started with my first one, I actually got a property manager off the bat, because I was like, I have almost no time. I want him to set up the leases. I want him to manage the people. I want him to collect the payments. And I just want to, at the end of the month, receive a check, right? That's it. But I'm paying him to do that. But whenever you hear people like, oh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be a landlord, I don't want to fix a broken toilet in the middle of the night. You don't necessarily have to. You can, and again, it's just thinking about that, though there's always other ways, and one is maybe a little bit less profitable, but it will save you time. So if you're busy at your job, like you're working here at Amazon, maybe you have a family, maybe you just have a super full life and you don't really want to deal with tenants all the time, there's definitely other ways that you can deal with that. And then, of course, moving. So if you want to scale fast and you want to do this maybe even every year, you're gonna have to move, right? And so that could be one of the drawbacks of this strategy. But once again, it's very much an individual decision, because you can also just do it every 5 years or every 4 years, whatever you want to do. So you don't have to move that much. All right, let's talk about some strategies to generate income. So one of the big ones, of course, Airbnb. So in Seattle, locally here in Seattle, you're allowed basically one owner occupied and then one additional short-term rental. But Airbnb is a great strategy to generate high income in like a very short period of time, but it's volatile, right? So right now I have an Airbnb. It's doing really, really well. We're in the summer months. Everybody wants to come here. I move into the winter, into December, and it just like, it just kind of tanks. So be aware of that, but it's a great strategy overall to generate income. Next one, that we have is, sorry, um, next one that we have is travel nurses. So the travel nurse is kind of medium-term rental. If you're near a hospital, it's really, really a good strategy to bring in professionals. It can even be like executives and that want to usually rent your place for more than 30 days, but usually it's like less than 6 months. But it's a really good strategy. I have some friends that use it because they're almost always working and not very much at your home. The rent by the room strategy. So that's what I've been doing a lot in my properties. So that's, you literally rent out a room, which is a really great strategy in an expensive market like Seattle, because you can provide really affordable housing, right? So like my rooms rent anywhere from um, $850 to $1,100 a month, and 850 you can really not find any apartments anywhere close here to pay 850 and everything included, so all utilities included. So when you think about affordable housing for people, the room rental is a great possibility, and it helps you because it's usually more profitable than just the long-term rental, but also it helps tenants because they're getting a really good affordable housing opportunity and option. Subdividing the lot and building or selling. So right now you hear a lot about Dadu Place. Dadu is detached accessory dwelling unit, which basically means you want to buy a lot big enough that you can build another property on it. That's a huge play in Seattle right now. Again, we have such a housing shortage here. It's very dense, so we need to build more housing in order to keep up really with the demand. And at the moment, we just can't. So a lot of people look for these kind of dadu or development plays. Next one is storage. So this is a really cool one that I've been using with this app called Neighbor here. It's one of the most passive ways. So you always hear passive income for for real estate. It's not really passive. I call it more like actively managed, right? This storage space has been the most passive that I've seen as far as real estate concerned. So I kind of rent out parking spots because parking is also very a big shortage here. And someone just puts their car there. It's automatically every month I get paid for it, and I don't really do a lot for it. Bedroom rentals for storage. So you can even just say, hey, I have an extra bedroom. I don't really want to deal with a tenant, but I'm okay if you keep your boxes here and, every month or every other month, you grab something from it. It's also a possibility. So I'm listing it on here just so you can kind of think about different ways for either your home or your future home of what's possible. Rent out parking. So as I said, that's something I do. Sniff spot. I've never done that, but I see people make money on this all the time. If you have a big backyard, you go sign up for Sniff Spot and you'd say, hey, bring your dogs, let them run around. It's amazing once you think about all the different opportunities there are to generate income using your home and house hacking it in that way. So it's not just always renting it out, right? Think creatively beyond that. And usually there's some developer, there's someone that has come up with it already. You just kind of have to look it up. HipCamp is another really cool one. I didn't use it, but I did look into some option as I wanted to go camping. Again, if you have space, but you don't want someone to park their car there, for example, maybe you'll be okay if someone pitches a tent there, right? Like pays you for it. You don't use it much, don't use the backyard very much. Everything possible. So just a few ideas to think about. Okay, what do we look for if you're looking for a great house hack? So when I work with people, these are some of the things that we usually look for. So separate units, we talked about duplex, triplex, fourplex, number of bedrooms. So usually a 2-1, 3-1. So 3 bedroom, 1 bath is kind of the max. I do have a 4 bed, 1 bath. It's been challenging. It's possible, but it's more challenging. That's a good ratio that you want to look for. Look for second kitchens or how you can convert it. Look for basements to convert into separate units. Large lots, as I just talked about, DADUs, detached accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, accessory dwelling units, which is usually your basement conversion. Look for light value add opportunities. And the reason is, people, a lot of retail buyers will walk away from that, right? They're like, I don't like this yellow wall. It's not my style. I'm not going to look at it, right? So look for some opportunities there. You want to, of course, look for areas and neighborhoods that have good amount of parking, are close to transit, and just a healthy rental market in general, right? If you can buy a really cheap property in the middle of nowhere, even in Washington, but then if nobody wants to live there, what's the point of owning it, right? So think about a healthy rental market and kind of your location for the property. Finding tenants. So again, property management company can help you utilize Facebook, Amazon, our for rent, Craigslist, Zillow, your own network, find your friends. My recent roommate that I got him off Facebook, and it's been amazing. I mean, we're very similar and worked out really, really well. And just become a great interviewer, just like we have our making good hiring decisions here and practicing interviewing. It's the same here for finding tenants. If you want to do it yourself, just really interview them, background checks, things like that. All right, now let's talk about this property here and do the actual kind of case study. So this was I acquired this property off market. So it was listed for $729,000, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. I ended up purchasing it for $705. So almost about $25K under value. The rehab budget was about $30,000. The current value on it is about $850,000. So that equals like $155,000 equity gain, which is $30,000 of what they call sweat equity, right? So you're painting, you're putting in work. I'll show you some pictures in a minute. And then 115K market appreciation. Again, Seattle, I love Seattle as an area now because the appreciation here is high. Do I think it's going to be as high as it has been? Probably not. I mean, it's been in the double digits, which has been really, really wild. But, if you think about back those properties that I first bought out of state, they also appreciated pretty well, but not quite as well as the market is here in Seattle and in the surrounding area. And the cool thing about this property was this big bonus lot that's I'm in the process of subdividing, almost finished it. That will create an extra, potentially $200K in equity. So on one property, this is quite a lot of net worth gain, right? Like over $300K. Now, not every property will kind of be this way, and especially now where we are at the moment, where there's such a shortage of supply, high interest rates, these numbers don't always work out this way, but nevertheless, we'll look at some other ones as well and kind of make sure that you understand there's a big range. And, you don't always have to hit these like home runs. It's good to have like, base hits as well. But this is a good example of kind of what's possible. So I did put in a lot of work. So I put in a lot of sweat equity, made it from a 4-bedroom to a 6-bedroom, painted it, put in new flooring, added a washer and dryer upstairs, did a bunch of landscaping, furnished it, went on OfferUp, Buy Nothing, Craigslist, all over to furnish it and try to buy things relatively inexpensive. Here's some pictures of how it looked in the beginning. So why did it go off the market? So this is the reason. So if you look at this, it was pretty overgrown. They weren't taking care of it at all. We had little friends up here in the right corner that I had to deal with a lot. So there was quite a lot of them. So I want you, and we'll talk about another property in a minute, but I don't want you to necessarily be scared of real estate, but I want you to understand that when you hear about like oh, I'm flipping this property, I'm doing all this. Like, it does come with a lot of work. Generally, if it does come with that work, it's more profitable, not always. But there's again wide ranges of what you can do. This was just a particular property. I thought, okay, the numbers make really good sense here, so I'm going to do it. Here's some of the work that we were doing. So adding the bedroom over here, this was kind of, we extended the wall, put up drywall, painted it, did the flooring over here, separated the upper and lower unit. So basically by just adding a door. That way I was living upstairs and I could just rent out the bottom, drywall and patched this over here. This is kind of how it was looking, you know, it was not very pretty when we bought it. So of course I had to, you know, replace the stove here. There were ants. The dryer was not even hooked up. There wasn't really a vent running through. So we had to replace all that, clean it up, replace the carpets. So a good amount of work. For this one, I gathered some of my friends to help me out, paint and clean and landscape. And I quickly also realized the landscaping, I hired somebody. I ended up, it ended up being way too much work, way too big of a lot. But you can see we cleaned it up, you know, mowed the lawn, cleaned it up all up here, right? This was all overgrown, furnished it, put in brand new carpet, painted it. So it looks a lot nicer, right? Like now it's actually livable and looks good. These were how the numbers worked out for this particular one. So as I was living there, I rented the rooms out, like I said, from $800 to $1,100. A couple of years ago, I still had a couple of cars there, so that about brought in $320. So my income was about, you know, almost $4,100. My mortgage, all the utilities plus the exterminator, I paid about, you know, almost $4,200. So after everything, while I was living there, I had to pay still about $100, right? So again, $100. I put this up here, to live in a huge home about 20 minutes to downtown Seattle is one of the best things about house hacking, right? Like you take your biggest expense, your biggest housing expense, you know, in your budget when you do your monthly budget, right? Like what's the one takes the most out of your paycheck? It's your housing usually, right? And I just reduced that to about $100. So now just think about with all the extra money that you can save, you can invest, you can go travel, you can do whatever you want to do, right? Here's one of the spreadsheets that I usually use. This is like the move out. So once I leave, so usually like when I analyze properties, I kind of analyze them based on not as if I was living there, but as I move out of it. So once I move out, or I have moved out now, right? Then I rent out every single room. They're actually doing a little bit better because this was a couple years ago, and another beauty of real estate, rents go up a little bit, right? So I'm actually able to charge a little bit more now for these rooms than before. And yeah, so the property itself is about, after here's my utilities, $500. So again, I bought it for $705. Interest rate was really low on that. I think that it was actually a little bit higher than the 3.25, but not much because it was a couple years back. Again, you don't see these right now, and I don't think you will see these interest rates again, right? So definitely keep that in mind. But it's a good, it's still a good analysis to show you just kind of how basically I look at these properties afterwards. So the beauty here is I was living for $100, right? If we go back here for a year, I moved out of it, and now this property pays me, you know, about $1,000 a month. So pretty cool. I think that this is like just making an extra 1,000, and you have other people, you know, paying your mortgage. So can it be done with less effort? Because I did this presentation almost a year ago. I did it for the group a lot longer ago. It was a year and a half ago, but I do multiple presentations sometimes for the team as well. And my one friend came up and she's like, Marty, you're telling people this about this house hack, but it takes so much work. You should tell them about about our house hack, which is also really good, and it doesn't take nearly as much work. So I wanted to bring this up and go over a couple really quick. We have about 12 minutes left, so I'll make this pretty fast here. But yes, you can do this also with less effort. But again, think profitability, comfortability. Okay, so these are some of my clients and also some of my best friends. We bought this Ballard townhome for them. It was a 3 bed and 2.5 bath, and it has this cool lower unit. They're super into design. They're very creative. They're musicians. They made this into an awesome Airbnb. And as you can see on here, so we bought it for 760. Their interest rate was not as high as it is now, but it was higher, 6.5%. So their mortgage about 47, almost 4,800. And these numbers actually run while they live there, so not while they're moving out. Their Airbnb, which I put over here, it actually brings in more, I think, on average, because they're totally self-managing. They're charging almost no cleaning fee. They're charging about $30 for every booking. So in recent, like last month, they made about $4,800 after everything. I average it here at 2,500 because again, I'm factoring in, the slow season, but it's probably actually a little bit higher. If they were to rent out their one room, that's at least 1,300. And then you can basically see, right? So that's $3,800 with their mortgage being 4,700, right? So while they're living there, they're right around $1,000, right? That they're paying to live in Ballard. It's about $1,000. They were living in an apartment just 5 minutes down the road previously in a 2 bedroom for $3,800, right? So they were living $3,800, paying somebody else, paying somebody else's mortgage. Now they're living for about $1,000 in the same neighborhood or very close to the same neighborhood, and just really are enjoying their lives. So that's the power of house hacking. Here's mine at the moment as well. This one I calculated once I was to move out. So these are again actual numbers. I am renting the room for $1,350. I also put my Airbnb at $2,500 on average. Same thing now. We're very close to the other home. The last month's was about $4,000. Previously, I had somebody manage it for me, so that really reduces my income, but it buys me back time, right? But these are the numbers that I have on mine at the moment. So I had about a 5.5% interest rate. And again, I'm living where I want to live, and I'm paying. This is my mortgage, but this is my income over here. This would be if I move out, so you can kind of take that off. But same thing, right? I'm paying about $1,000 to, let's say, $1,800 every month to live where I want to live, and I own the place. There's another recent one I did with a client. So this is kind of cool one because we talk about these high interest rates, and what happened in her scenario, and this is not something that can happen for everyone, but for some of you maybe it can, is she actually got a loan from her parents. So her interest rate is only 2.5%. They're loaning her the money at 2.5%. She put 10% down herself. She got this at a really good deal. Like we were able to get this property $50,000 under, so she got it for $600K. And if she was to just rent it out, again, she could do the Airbnb, similar unit down there, and rent out the upstairs for $1,550. So she could have a property paying her about $800 a month after all the utilities and factoring in vacancy, maintenance, repair, and capex. So here's some of my friends or some of the clients I've worked with. I really love this. This is again my musician friend. She mentioned recently to me, she's like, "Hey, Bryce has reduced his freelance animation job and focuses almost full time on writing and making music. All thanks to you encouraging us to house hack." So this is kind of the piece that I love, right? They can do what they love, even though they're not into real estate and like that's not necessarily their thing. Buying that house hack, buying this property has really given them the ability to now focus on the thing that they're more passionate about. always encourage people, once you do better in life, definitely give back to the community, whether through real estate or otherwise. I mean, we know at Amazon we have a lot of the volunteer opportunities, but also, help others, kind of teach them, educate them, or make donations, whatever it is. I think is super, super important. And here's some resources I'm happy to share with you all afterwards as well. Again, check out Real Estate at Amazon, our broadcast channel. This one will be on there. So much knowledge, bigger pockets. There's some book recommendations and different communities that are here locally in Seattle. Leave you with this phrase here. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So it's kind of like, don't wait. If you're interested, again, we talked about this, take action. And if you want to stay connected with me, of course, you can Slack, but also I'm active on Instagram, Facebook. You can scan this or, just reach out to me. And that's all I have. So we have a few minutes left for questions. So I'm happy to take them.
I think you have some questions in the chat here, Marty. One of them is, how does having the real estate license help you create or change things for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So initially I got it really because I wanted quick access to properties, and not really waiting for another agent. Then it turned into my friends asking me, "Hey, can you help me?" And then it turned into a full-on career. So it has definitely helped me just really know the market better. It's helped me learn a ton more about real estate, and what I love most about it is really helping the people. So it has helped me, like I was kind of showing there, really show people how real estate can help them in their lives, and that's been the biggest benefit for me.
Great. The next one is, what made you switch from Dave Ramsey's no debt policy?
Great question. What made so very funny one. I started on the music team about 7 years ago, and I sat with someone. We all have probably the kind of friend that's always invited at weddings. That's super funny. That's all it makes it just can make everybody laugh. And he sat down with me, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "I own real estate," and I'm like, "You do?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." And so he started to just introduce me to one of his agents, and then I talked with him, and I bought that first property. And when I bought that first property, that condo in Kent, and I realized, if you do it right, if you use debt in a smart way, right, you leverage it right, you don't get the consumer debt, right? Like Dave Ramsey focuses a lot, and rightly so. Millions of Americans just buy a car, buy a boat, buy these things, consumer debt that you can't afford. That's not smart. But if you use debt in a smart way, in an intelligent way, and you leverage, uh, then it can be a really a great vehicle for you to build wealth.
Awesome. I think one of the questions here that I was getting a couple plus ones was, can you share your spreadsheet for
Yes.
analyzing House Hack? And probably going off that, is there any other spreadsheets or resources that you use to analyze properties?
Yeah, there's definitely a few other ones. So what I do a lot with, I'm happy to share that spreadsheet with you. With people that I work with directly, we go kind of in detail, and we analyze properties together a lot as well. But as far as other resources, there's on Bigger Pockets. So if you go here, they have a property analysis calculator that's really good that I kind of started with as well. I believe it's free still, but maybe they make you pay monthly now for something. But that's a good one. There's a site called Mashvisor that's good for analyzing Airbnbs. You do have to pay for that. And then there is for analyzing rental rates. Rentometer is used a lot. Again, you have to pay for it, unfortunately. What I like, my team that I work with here on the real estate side, the House Hack team, we pay for it, and then we kind of share it with clients a lot. But if you want to use it like on your own, it will cost you after using like five or so for free. But the spreadsheet I can share, and you can run numbers for sure.
Next one is, do you partner with others? Like, do you partner with people on deals?
Um, yes, I do have one partnership, and that's on the East Coast with a property. There's five of us, and we all invest different amounts of money into the deals, and then we buy properties cash and basically renovate them, refinance them, pull the money back out. But I do always look for partner opportunities. That's I did one almost at the beginning of the year. We had a house in Ballot under contract, big rehab that me and a friend of mine were partnering on. Couldn't quite make the numbers work, so we dropped it. But I do partner. I like to partner if people are ever interested in that.
Great. Next one is, do you have to sign on with a broker to be an agent and have access to see houses? Question.
You do, yeah. If you get your license, so you have to take a 90-hour class. You have to pass the national and the state specific exam, and then you have to hang your license with a broker. But it's
And
not, there was
then,
another question, I think, last time, or one of the other meetups that I did, but it's not required to have a license for you to invest. In fact, most investors that I know actually do not have their real estate license.
good point. And then, given high interest rates, does it make sense to do an ARM now, projecting reduced interest rates for refi later?
Yeah, I would say by ARM you mean like after repair value, right? ARV.
Yeah, I believe that's what they were referring to here.
Okay, and then the second part of the question was again.
It was, given high interest rates, does it make sense to do an ARV now, projecting reduced interest rates for refi later?
I'm
I got
actually
you.
not asking about an ARV or ARV. I'm asking about an
Oh, it just.
adjustable rate mortgage.
Oh,
Like,
okay, okay.
Oh, all right,
right,
okay.
the whole thing is about interest rates. So if I do a 5-year adjustable rate mortgage, I can have a significantly lower interest rate right now, projecting that lower
Hmm.
interest rates are coming in the next couple of years.
Right. Yeah, yeah. It could potentially make sense. I mean, we've seen the kind of reverse with on commercial properties right now, right? So they're usually adjustable rates, and they've got them at a really low rate, and now it's adjusting to the high rate. So you've seen a lot of kind of default there. Um, they're definitely uh, a possibility in Europe. Actually, they're mostly adjustable rate mortgages. Um, but of course, you don't know. You don't know if they will go down. I think they're still going to go a bit up, um, to be honest. So it's always a risk that you take. But it depends if you think that kind of the 7.5% now is pretty high, then those could make sense. But personally, I think that we might even see some further increases. But yeah, it's a good point.
Great. We have two more questions. What areas do you see becoming trendy in Seattle?
Becoming trendy, yeah. Um, I do see a lot of. I mean, the development continues in areas like Ballard, Fremont. I still really, there's still a lot of pockets that are not super developed, but then outside of that, um, you are seeing them more in uh, like where I've invested into that in Tequila, right? Um, it's quite amazing because those are like your opportunity zones, kind of like it's up and coming. You basically have a house that's kind of run down. You have two brand new builds. You have another house that's run down. So down south, near the airport, although I still think it's going to take about 5 to 10 years, but there you see a lot of turnover. White Center, you continue to see a lot of more turnover and kind of more trendy restaurants happening. So some of those neighborhoods for sure.
All right, and last question is, can you act as the agent for your own real estate transactions?
Absolutely, yep, yep. You can definitely do that, and then yeah, you can a lot of times. I mean, a lot of people will do that, and then you can use that commission even for your down payment.
Got it. And I'll ask one because I thought this was a good one you shared on social media the other day. Was what is your favorite productivity hack?
Yeah.
Since you
So a lot of
do, you're L6 at Amazon, you're a real estate agent, and you're doing just a ton of investing. Like, what would you give advice for?
yeah, thanks for bringing that one up. So my number one productivity hack that I talked about is get rid of your TV. So ditch the TV. That's really helped me a lot. It honestly gives you, when you add it up, it can give you an entire extra work week and more a month. So, if you do want to find some extra time to either do some cool project or travel, not watching TV really has helped me.
Awesome. I think that's it that we got here.
Right. Cool. Well, thanks all. Like I said, do feel free to message me, reach out. I'll make sure to put this on our broadcast channel. Really appreciate anyone that took the time out. I know Amazon is busy and we all have a lot of things going on, so appreciate you joining. And yeah, hopefully I see you at the next one. Thanks all.